Hey, thanks for tuning in. This is the Beast Kingdom Bible study, and today we're going to talk about the Beast Kingdom and the different components of the Beast Kingdom. And this is going to be an interesting Bible study by far, because what I am about to say is not taught in seminaries. Only like 20 preachers in the entire world preach the same message that I'm about to preach, and I'm about to pretty much change everyone's thinking that watches this video. So it's going to be interesting. So put your seatbelt on and let's go for a ride. So if you go to seminary to study to be a pastor, you're gonna learn this. What I'm about to tell you, because this is what I learned in seminary. They will tell you that the four beasts that we see in Daniel 7 are the same pieces of the statue we see in Daniel 2. And they are both right and they are wrong. So, first, when you're looking at prophecy, both New Testament, Old Testament, New Testament, first coming of Christ, second coming of Christ, when you're looking at the prophecies, every prophecy, or just about 90% of Bible prophecy, has what is called a foreshadow. Tell me I'm wrong. Jesus, just about everything Jesus did was some kind of foreshadow in the Old Testament. It had some kind of foreshadow going on in the Old Testament among the prophets, among the different patriarchs, among different things that were going on. There was these foreshadows. In the New Testament and in the Old Testament, there was also foreshadows of the second coming of Christ and the different prophecies in the second coming scenario. One foreshadow that is overlooked is back when we were looking at the abomination of desolation. I explained to you that during the tribulation period, the third temple is built. Antichrist or the false prophet will walk into the third temple and sacrifice some kind of unclean animal on the altar, and that would be the abomination that causes desolation, the fulfillment of it. Jesus talks about this, and the Daniel talks about it, Jesus talks about it. John is given a prophecy in the book of Revelation about it. It's called the abomination of desolation. Well, in 70 AD, there was a ruler that walked into the second temple, sacrificed a pig on the altar, and that is also an abomination of desolation. But that was a foreshadow of what is really going to happen. So that prophecy that will happen in the third temple had a foreshadow of it happening in the second temple. So there's foreshadows that will happen. That leads me to this. When King Nebuchadnezzar in Daniel 2 has a dream, in Daniel 2, he dreams of the statue. And the statue is that, the head was Babylon and the chest was Medo-Persia, then Greece, then Rome. Rome was in the time of Jesus. And we can go back, we can read it, but it's not going to change anything I just said. Feel free to go read Daniel 2. Well, then in Daniel 7, Daniel has dreams about these four beasts. And we're going to talk about the four beasts. And we're going to read about them. And then we're going to go read Revelations 13 and Revelation 12. Because these four beasts show up at the end for the end time prophecies. Now, these four beasts, they can also be related to the statue. So they're like foreshadows, but the fulfillment of them are in the end times. So the actual fulfillment are in the end times. The foreshadows will be in the time of Daniel, or not in the time of Daniel, but these four kingdoms that come on earth between Daniel and the time of Jesus, between Babylon and Rome. So the beasts are foreshadows during that time period. If that makes sense, praise God. Um, so let's see what the four beasts represent. The first beast that Daniel sees is in Revelations, or not Revelation, Daniel 7, verse 4. And here's where it says, let me find it. Daniel 7, 4, it says, or if we go with 3, it says, the four great beasts came out of the sea, different from one another. That's important. They came out of the sea. In Revelation 12, we're going to see that the beast kingdom comes out of the sea. In Daniel 7, the four beasts come out of the sea. But then it says this, verse 4, the first was like a lion, and it had eagle wings. Then I looked, and its wings were plucked off, and it was lifted up from the ground, and made to stand on its 2 feet like a man. And a mind of a man was given to it. So Daniel is seeing these four beasts that will be four nations, four kingdoms on earth, or different kingdoms. They represent different kingdoms on earth. The eagle wings represents the United States of America, and the lion represents Great Britain. Now, why is that? Why am I saying that? Well, the eagle is the USA's national animal. Their national animal is an eagle, a bald eagle. But also their military equipment. They have an F-15 Eagle aircraft, and it's one of the top military fighting force aircrafts in the world. And then the lion is Great Britain, and their national animal is a lion, but also they have a military equipment called the Westland Line. I forgot my picture, my little camera thing is covering up what I wrote down. But they have that military equipment called the Westland Line. Now we get to the second beast, and I'm gonna piece all these together soon. So don't leave. Stay. Watch what each beast represents. Then I'm gonna piece everything together. So the second beast, it says in verse 5, and behold another beast, a second one, like a bear, and it raised up on one side, and it had 3 ribs in its mouth between its teeth, and it was told, arise, devour much flesh. So the bear, just about every Bible scholar, no matter what their position is on Bible prophecy, they agree that the bear is Russia. But if you don't believe that, then you should know that Russia has a military force. It's like a unit. It's a unit of like 300 people, soldiers, called the Beer Brigade. I can't say it. Brigade. But they have a military force called the Beer Brigade, and their national animal is a bear. The 3 ribs in the bear's mouth are 3 leaders that Russia will be involved in uprooting. And I'm going to explain that when we get to the fourth beast. But the 3 ribs represent 3 leaders. And right now Russia invaded Ukraine. I would not be surprised if they invade the European Union and uprooted 3 leaders. I would not be surprised. Um, and then put their own leader in charge. But we're going to talk about that in a minute. Then we get to the third beast. Here's what it says. Daniel 7:6. After this I looked, and behold, another like a leopard had 4 wings of a bird on his back, and the beast had 4 heads, and dominion was given to it. The leopard is Germany. After World War II, Germany was divided up in 4 sections. You had, I believe that's Russia and China, or the Soviet Union, and then you had Great Britain, the United States, and France. They got divided up. Russia got divided up in 4 sections. And then France, there's an agreement, or France is the bird, or France represents the wings on the back of the leopard. I'm getting ahead of myself. France represents the wings on the back of the leopard. And France's national bird is a rooster. And then Germany, why do they represent a leopard? Well, it's because they have one of the top tanks in the world called a Leopard tank. And then there was a France-German treaty between the 2 nations, and they have been in this treaty for a couple of decades now, and that's a fulfillment of that prophecy. And then we get to the fourth beast. The fourth beast represents the European Union. It has 10 horns, and that's going to be 10 nations, leaders, or powers. The 3 horns are uprooted. These are 3 leaders that get uprooted. Remember, the bear had 3 ribs in his mouth? The bear of Russia is going to be involved in uprooting 3 leaders of the European Union. And right now with the war going on in Ukraine, I would not be surprised if Russia decides, hey, let's invade the European Union too, and I would not be surprised if that happens, because I can see it right here in Bible prophecy. Here's what it says though in Daniel 7:7. After this I saw in the night vision, and behold, a fourth beast, terrifying and dreadful and exceedingly strong, and it had great iron teeth. It was told, it had great iron teeth. It devoured and broke into pieces and stomped what was left with its feet. It was different from the other beasts that were before it. It had 10 horns. I considered their horns, and behold, there came up among the 10 horns a little horn, and before which 3 of their horns were plucked out from the root. And behold, this horn were eyes like the eyes of man, and the mouth speaking great things. So the 3 horns are leaders being plucked out. And then the little horn is the Antichrist being installed. So the bear, I believe Russia is going to invade the European Union and pluck out 3 leaders from that union and install their own leader, and the leader will come out to be Antichrist. That's what I believe is going to happen. That's what makes sense when I look at the prophecies. I want to point out something. So in Revelation 13:1-2, it says, And I saw the beast rising up out of the sea. Remember in Daniel 7, it says, Daniel 7:3, and four great beasts came up out of the sea. So this is the same beast, that we see in 7, Daniel 7, is the same beast we now see in Revelation 12 or 13. So I saw the beast rising up out of the sea with 10 horns, 7 heads. The 7 heads, you're going to have the leopard, the bear, the lion, or I said that wrong, the lion, the bear, the beast. And then when the leopard has 4 heads, and so that's 7, right? The lion, the bear, the beast, and then that's 3, and then the 4 heads make 7. So 7 heads with 10 crowns on its horns. So 10 crowns. The horns represent people or leaders, powers. Like prime ministers, presidents, kings. So 10 horns. 10 horns would be 10 leaders of these nations with crowns on their head, and then a blasphemous name on their head. And then it says, the beast I saw was like a leopard. You have the leopard, and its feet of a bear, mouth of a lion. And then it says, and to it the dragon gave its power and its throne and great authority. What animal is in Daniel 7, but it's not in Revelation 12, 1 through 2? What animal, what nation do we see in Daniel 7 that we do not see in Revelation 12? The eagle wings. We do not see the eagle wings being part of the beast kingdom. So where's the eagle wings at? I did not write this down in the slideshow because I was going super fast. I didn't think about it, but here's in Revelation 12, verse 13, it says, and when the dragon saw that he had been thrown down to the earth, that's the devil, he pursued the woman who had been given birth to a male child, and that would be who? Israel. Israel gave birth to Jesus. But the woman was given the 2 wings of a great eagle, that she might fly away from the serpent into the wilderness, to a place where she will be nourished for a time and times and a half of a time. That's 3.5 years. And we already talked about the tribulation and how half of the tribulation is 3.5 years. So once the abomination of desolation happens, that 3.5 years start up, and it says that Israel, the woman, is given a pair of 2 wings of a great eagle to protect her. So, unlike popular belief, Israel is not going to stand alone in the fight against the beast kingdom, and this is the beast kingdom we're looking at on the screen. The beast kingdom is made up of 10 horns and 7 heads, and the leopard and the bear's mouth, or the lion's mouth and the bear's feet. The beast kingdom is not made up of the wings of the eagle. So there is another nation on earth that during the second half of the tribulation Israel will be in some kind of partnership with another nation, and that other nation is going to be the United States of America. The United States of America will be an ally of Israel. Right now, as we speak, because of Donald Trump, Israel is the Defense Department's #1 priority. When Donald Trump was in office the first time, he moved the embassy, the U.S. embassy, to Jerusalem, and he said that Jerusalem will be the capital of Israel. And Israel said that Donald Trump and the Christians were the greatest friends of Israel. The Prime Minister said that. Whenever the United Nations, during the Trump administration, the United Nations would vote on resolutions concerning Israel, the United States of America was the only one voting in favor of Israel. All the other nations were voting against, not in favor of Israel. Did you know that? It's for a reason, it's for a purpose. And then in Revelation, I did write it down. Revelation 13:3, it says, one of the heads seemed to have a mortal wound, but its mortal wound was healed, and the whole earth marveled as they followed the beast. The wound that was healed on one of the heads is the Berlin Wall. After the fall of the Berlin Wall, all the nations started to progress towards a one world government agenda. They started to chase after this one world peace plan with all the nations. It was a wound that was healed. Today, Germany is back to how it was before. It's its own nation. That was a wound that was healed. A lot of Bible scholars, though, they would say, oh, this is talking about the Antichrist. But you have to understand, a beast in the Bible is a nation, not a person. How do I know that? Well, you just read the Bible. Read in Daniel 2, Daniel 7. It tells you that a beast represents a kingdom. A lot of Bible scholars will say that this verse is talking about Antichrist. That Antichrist is going to get hurt somehow, and that his wound's going to be healed. A deadly wound, right? But this is really just talking about Germany and the Berlin Wall being brought down. And then after that happened, because of the Bush administration, they started pushing forward towards a one world agenda. Now, if we go back to Israel and United States of America, I did not make a slideshow for this. I probably should have. God made a covenant with Abraham. God made a covenant with Abraham, and his covenant was that I'm going to make you into a great nation. And then later on, God said, hey, I'm going to make you into a father of many nations, into an assembly of nations. And you can go look at the verse yourself. He told Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, I'm going to make you into an assembly of nations. A lot of scholars, they say, oh, this assembly of nations is Israel. Because Israel's, you had Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Jacob had his 12 sons through 4 different women. And those 4 women, 2 of them were, I think, 2 of them were, pretty much all 4 of them were different nations. And so a lot of scholars say, oh, that's what God meant. When he said Assembly of Nations, that's what he meant. Well, there's another sect of scholars that say the Assembly of Nations is talking about the church. When Jesus was born, and he lived a sinless life, and he died a death, and he started the church. And the gospel goes forth to all nations. And the church becomes the assembly of nations. Then later on in history, a bunch of Christians around the 1600s, escaping persecution from Great Britain, come over here and do what? They plant the 13 colonies. And then they declare their independence, and you know the whole story. Well, the United States started with 13 colonies. Israel had 13 tribes. In the Old and New Testament, Israel had 12 tribes. You'll find lists of 12 tribes, but each list is a different set of tribes. In the Old Testament, the tribe of Dan was completely destroyed by God. And the two sons of Joseph each became a tribe. So altogether, you will find 13 tribes in the Old Testament of Israel. Then you get 13 colonies of the United States. Then later on in the history of Israel, you have the Civil War. Between the North and the South, you had Israel and you had Judah, the Civil War. The United States of America, you had the Civil War between the North and the South. When Abraham had his other son with the servant woman, God told the mother of the other son, your son's going to become a great nation. That was he said, your son's going to inherit the great nation part of the promise, but he's not going to be part of the complete promise, but he will become a great nation. God made a promise to Abraham that his offspring would become a great nation and that they would have land flowing with milk and honey, and that he would be the father of a nation and a father of many nations, an assembly of nations. The United States of America is the only nation in history. In all of history, the United States of America is the only nation to ever become an assembly of nations. If you go to Germany, 90% of that nation is Germans. Mexico, 90% Mexicans. Canada, 90% Canadian. Russia, 90% Russians. Any nation in the world, you will not find such a vast mix of variety of people. A lot of prophecy scholars that teach on Bible prophecy would say that the United States is Babylon. And I think that's heresy. When we get to reading in scriptures, it talks about fallen Babylon the Great, and then it talks about the great prostitute who led the nations astray. That's talking about the beast kingdom that we just got done talking about. Russia, France, Germany, the European Union. Who am I missing? Great Britain. This is the beast kingdom. It says about the beast kingdom that it's going to be made up of all nations, tribes, languages. But also the Bible says that the church is also made up of all nations, tribes, languages, people. So the church and the beast kingdom both. But then you have to look at, where's Canada in end time prophecy? Where's Mexico in end time prophecy? Where's all of Africa in end time prophecy? Where is South America in end time prophecies? Where about Australia. Where's Australia in end time prophecy? All those nations are not mentioned in end time prophecy. Why is that? Well, because prophecy stays right there where the Middle East is, where Israel is at, or with those nations surrounding Israel. It stays in that 1/3 of the world. That's why when you see the 7 trumpets and you see the seals being opened up, and it's always saying 1/3, 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. It's because all these events are happening in that 1/3 part of the world. A lot of people, they want to say, oh, well, the Bible teaches a one world government. No, it does not. It teaches a beast kingdom government made up of all people. It doesn't teach of a one world government made up of all nations. It teaches of a one world government made up of all people of the different languages and nations and tribes. Also, when you see the word nation in scripture, we can't be thinking about nation in the same way that we think about nation apart from what the Bible says a nation is. And what I mean by that is that if you read about the Tower of Babel, and when the Tower of Babel is destroyed by God, and God divides up the people in all the nations, what happens? In all the languages and different nations, what happens? God divided up the world in 70 complete nations of people. So when you see the word nation, don't think the 265 nations or how many nations we have in the world today. Think of the 70 nations that God divided up the people into during the Tower of Babel. The 70 nations in that scenario, in the Bible, those 70 languages, 70 nations, 70 groups of people, all the tribes, that's what the beast kingdom will be made up of. Those 70 nations, not the nations that we see today. And the church will also be made up of those same 70 nations. And then when we read about in Revelation 12, we read about Israel. And it says that when the dragon saw that he had been thrown down to the earth, he pursued the woman who being given birth to the male child. But the 2 wings of an eagle was protecting the woman, right? Protecting Israel against who? The dragon. Well, the dragon right here in Revelation 13, 13:3, 13:4, yeah, in Revelation 13:4 it says, and they worshiped the dragon, for he had given authority to the beast. So the dragon gave authority to these different beast kingdoms, right? The different kingdoms on earth that make up the beast kingdom. The dragon gave authority to this collection of nations that come together in a great unity with each other, and they will wage war against who? Against Israel. But the United States of America will protect Israel against this beast kingdom for that 3.5-year period after the abomination that causes desolation. So, I mean, that's what the Bible teaches. And then we can keep on going through it. And we'll talk more about this in future Bible studies because I think how many 35 minutes. So I'll leave it at that. with that being said, if you have any questions, you can make a comment below this video, and I'll try and answer those questions in future videos. God bless you and have a great week.